Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, the open source AI rebellion directly challenges Anthropic. A massive geopolitical tug-of-war for compute is quietly brewing, and the sheer scale of the upcoming AI inference market is literally giving infrastructure leaders nightmares.
Yeah, it is a seriously heavy newswire today. I mean, the stakes are just massive across the board.
They really are. So, for you listening, here's our mission for this deep dive. We are taking the raw wire of today's trending timeline and synthesizing it to show you not just what is happening, but why it matters and who actually stands to win or lose.
Exactly, because, the headlines only tell like 10% of the story.
Right.
Okay.
So let's jump straight into that terrifying reality about the infrastructure. There's a post today from at Son of Folly that, well, it sets the stakes perfectly. She mentioned her husband at Brexton, who runs physical AI compute infrastructure, literally couldn't sleep last night. Yeah, he was just staring at the ceiling because of this realization that the AI inference market is going to be an order of magnitude larger than anything we've ever seen. I mean, we are talking about a market projected to hit over $300 billion by 2034.
He has every right to be losing sleep over that. I mean, think about the mechanics of how this industry has operated for the last, 3 years. The obsession has entirely been around training models.
Right.
And training is a brutal, but, it's a finite capital expenditure. You buy 100,000 GPUs, you secure a literal nuclear reactor's worth of power, you run the math for 6 months, and then boom, you have a model.
Yeah, you basically endure all that pain to build the factory one.
Exactly. But inference, which is the actual daily, second-by-second usage of these models by millions of people, is an entirely different beast. It is this unending, persistent load on the grid.
Which just compounds, right?
Oh, massively. Every time an employee generates an email or, a customer service bot answers a query or an autonomous agent parses a database, that requires inference compute. As we move from training these systems to actually putting them into production across, every enterprise software suite by 2026, the compute requirement just explodes.
So projecting a $300 billion market is almost the easy part. The real question is how you physically power it, and more importantly, who gets to host it. Which brings up this really fascinating geopolitical play today from @AndrewCurran.
Ah, yeah, the Austria situation.
Right. He reported that Austria is actively lepsing the European Union to be the official host for Anthropic's European operations. And their pitch is heavily focused on regulatory alignment. They're offering legal certainty and kind of leaning into the idea that Anthropic's whole ethos of ethical, safe AI is a perfect match for European values.
Which is, it's a beautifully crafted political narrative. Europe wants the regulatory win, and they desperately want the tax base of a frontier AI lab. But let's be cynical for a second here. Shared values do not power data centers.
No, they definitely don't.
GPUs do. Energy grids do. Anthropic requires incredibly reliable compute and supply chains, and those supply chains are stubbornly, heavily concentrated in the United States. You just can't regulate a data center into existence if you don't have the silicon and the megawatts.
Wait, I'm going to push back on that just a bit. Because isn't regulatory certainty exactly what jittery Fortune 500 companies are begging for right now?
Sure, compliance teams love it.
Right. Like, if you're a massive European bank, you might be terrified to route your customer data through a U.S.-based model that might, change its privacy terms tomorrow. Doesn't Europe's strictness actually build a highly lucrative protective moat for a company like Anthropic?
In theory, yes, regulatory moats are real. But you are ignoring the physics of the situation. A bank's desire for privacy doesn't magically manifest the 100 megawatts of continuous power required to run the inference loads we literally just talked about.
That's true.
If the European grid can't handle the physical load, or if they can't get the latest generation of NVIDIA chips because of, supply chain prioritization, that regulatory moat is completely useless. You can't sell compliance if the server keeps crashing.
That is a very fair point. The sheer physical reality of U.S. dominance in tech infrastructure is just hard to ignore. Just to underline that, look at what SpaceX did today.
Oh, the landing.
Yes, they casually posted about successfully landing a Falcon 9 booster on an autonomous drone ship out in the ocean right after launching 24 Starlink satellites into orbit.
Just a routine Tuesday for them.
It really is. It's this staggering, heavy, physical industrial capability. You have Austria trying to attract a company like Anthropic with promises of ethical alignment and paperwork, while the U.S. is literally landing rockets on ocean platforms to build a global satellite internet grid. The physical infrastructure gap is just staggering.
And yet what's equally staggering is how some of the biggest tech companies in the US have all this physical infrastructure, all this capital, and they are completely mismanaging the application layer.
Okay, you are reading my mind because that leads perfectly into this viral post today from @GeorgeLeeOros about Salesforce. He's pointing out a glaring disconnect.
Yeah, this was wild to read.
Right, so Salesforce is currently pushing their new Agentforce AI incredibly hard. They're trying to sell it as a standalone, net new product to every enterprise on the planet. Meanwhile, they're completely ignoring the fact that Slack, which they own by the way, is already the default AI connective tissue for almost every tech company on Earth.
It is such a painful case study in the innovator's dilemma.
Break that down for us.
Well, for those unfamiliar, the innovator's dilemma is basically when a successful legacy company fails to adopt new technology because it conflicts with their existing, highly profitable business model, or because it doesn't look like a billion-dollar product right out of the gate.
So how does that apply to Salesforce here?
Salesforce wants to sell net new infrastructure. They want a shiny new product line called Agentforce that their sales teams can use to drive massive new revenue contracts. They're looking at AI as a completely new vertical to dominate.
But the developers are already living in Slack. I mean, they use it as daily middleware. They have Claude bots, automation scripts, and custom integrations running constantly.
Yes.
It's like owning the municipal water supply, but trying to convince everyone to buy your expensive brand of bottled water instead of just, turning on their taps.
That is the perfect analogy. Slack has the distribution, it has the daily active user attention, but from the perspective of a legacy enterprise sales team, embedding AI deeply into Slack doesn't look like a massive new enterprise contract.
Right, it just looks like a feature update.
Precisely. So they're completely ignoring the distribution channel they spent, $27 billion to acquire, all to chase a standalone product that developers are largely ignoring.
It's wild to watch. But what happens when a company actually has the compute, has the distribution, but completely miscalculates how developers actually want to interact with the models? That brings us to the most heated debate on the timeline today, the open source rebellion.
Oh, this is getting so good.
So Kim Nismus posted a video clip today of Anthropic's CEO Dario Amodei basically calling open source AI a distraction.
Yeah.
His argument is essentially that because you can't actually see what's happening inside the weights of the model, like the underlying neural connections, it's not truly free or open in the traditional software sense.
This requires a really deep look at incentives. Dario wants the basis of competition in AI to be about hosting capabilities and inference speed.
Why? Just to protect the moat.
Exactly, because that protects Anthropic's moat as a closed-source API provider. By framing open source as a distraction, he is signaling, perhaps unintentionally, that it is an absolute existential threat to his business model.
And the timeline today is flooded with receipts proving just how big of a threat it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we are seeing what Brian Rummel just dubbed the Cambrian explosion of open source. He announced Kiwaithos 9b today.
Yeah, the specs on this are insane.
They really are. It's an uncensored model based on Qwen 3.5, but the kicker is that it has a 1 million token context window, and he's running it locally on a consumer-grade RTX 4080 GPU.
Let's break down why that is so disruptive. So, a context window is basically the short-term memory of the AI. A 1 million token window means you can feed entire code bases, massive financial reports, or a dozen books into the model's memory all at once.
Right.
And until very, very recently, doing that required server racks full of enterprise-grade hardware.
And now he's doing it on a graphics card you can basically buy at a local Best Buy.
Yeah.
How is that even technically possible?
It's all about quantization and local memory optimization. The open source community is figuring out how to compress the mathematical precision of these models. They shrink the file size so it fits into the limited VRAM of a consumer graphics card without losing a catastrophic amount of reasoning capability.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you just don't need a multi-million-dollar cloud contract to process massive documents anymore. You just need a good PC.
And it's not just hobbyists doing this either. At Yukin GUW, who leads AI infrastructure at Databricks, posted today calling the new 744 billion parameter GLM 5.2 model the open source Claude moment.
That's a huge statement.
It is. He noted that Databricks is seeing astonishing enterprise demand to take these open source models, post-train them on their own private data, and crucially, own the weights themselves.
Because owning the weights is becoming the ultimate enterprise mandate. If you rely on a closed-source API, you are essentially renting your company's intelligence.
Which is terrifying for a CIO.
Exactly. You don't own the underlying logic. And as we are seeing with global geopolitics, relying on external supply chains for your core intelligence is an incredible vulnerability.
Speaking of geopolitics, that tension escalated today too. Eddie Huanglu highlighted that China, via Zipu AI, is essentially open sourcing a model that rivals Anthropic's Claude Mythos in cybersecurity bug detection.
See, this connects directly back to our earlier point about Europe trying to regulate their way to safety.
Right, the Austria thing.
Yes. While Western regulators debate the theoretical ethics of frontier models, Chinese labs are taking highly capable, advanced vulnerability finding models and just releasing them into the wild as open source. Open source is rapidly becoming a geopolitical wedge to level the playing field against the closed American labs.
So if you are an enterprise CIO, you might be thinking, why wouldn't I just stick with the easy closed source API from OpenAI or Anthropic? Well, we got a glaring technical answer to that today.
The token drain issue.
Yeah. At the Socio, who works on the OpenAI Codex team, revealed they're currently sitting in a Sunday war room. They're combing through logs because paid enterprise users on GPT 5.4 and 5.5 are experiencing sudden, massive token drains. People's usage limits are just vanishing without warning.
This is the hidden structural flaw of the API economy. You just cannot build a sustainable, predictable business if your core infrastructure provider can suddenly drain your usage limits or, change the unit economics overnight.
Yeah. Why is this happening technically? Is someone just hacking them and stealing their tokens?
No, it's likely an issue with context caching or routing inefficiencies under the hood. When you send a prompt to an API, the provider tries to cache the context so they don't have to recompute it every single time.
Okay, makes sense.
But if their routing algorithm fails, or if a minor update to the model changes how it parses the prompt, it might suddenly have to recompute the entire million token context from scratch for every single query. And you get billed for all that invisible background compute.
Wow. Imagine if your water bill suddenly spiked 500% in an hour because the city tweaked a pressure valve and you just had to pay it. You'd go off the grid, you'd dig a well.
Precisely, and that is exactly what is happening in AI. These unexplainable technical glitches and billing spikes are driving enterprises directly into the arms of open source.
Pushing them right to the edge.
Yeah. The closed models push users away with unpredictable pricing and opaque technical failures, and the open models pull them in with dropping hardware requirements and absolute control.
Which provides perfect context for an announcement today from Ahmed Osman. He just teamed up with NVIDIA on a partnership to make local AI the default standard for developers.
And that is a massive signal.
Right. When NVIDIA, the company that literally built its trillion-dollar valuation selling chips for centralized cloud data centers, starts heavily backing the decentralized local AI movement, you know that tectonic plates are shifting.
NVIDIA is playing a brilliant hedge here. They recognize that the future isn't just massive central clouds, it's a distributed network of highly capable models running on edge devices and local servers. They just want to own the hardware stack regardless of where the model lives.
They don't care if you buy a massive server rack or a desktop GPU.
Exactly. As long as it has a green logo on it, they win.
Okay, so the cost of intelligence is plummeting, models are running locally, and developers are taking control of the weights. But what happens when these AI models actually start acting in the physical world? Let's pivot into culture and applied tech, because at Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, dropped a fascinating vision today.
Oh, the agent wallets.
Yes, he is pitching Coinbase as the financial account for the intelligence age. He's using their base blockchain in USDC to give autonomous AI agents their own actual crypto wallets.
He shared some metrics alongside this, the MCP by 402 data, which ostensibly shows real, tangible, on-chain tooling for these agents. It's technically very impressive to see software execute transactions autonomously.
Before we get into the implications of that, what exactly is an MCP? How does a piece of software hold a wallet?
Right. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's essentially a standardized way for an AI model to interface with external tools and data sources securely. So instead of just generating text in a chat window, the AI can use an MCP to read a live database, execute a line of code, or in this case, sign a cryptographic transaction on a blockchain.
Okay, so the AI is given the private keys and the instructions to use it.
Exactly.
So the AI can literally spend money.
Yes, and that is where the regulatory nightmare begins. I mean, our entire global financial regulatory system, know your customer laws, anti-money laundering frameworks, is completely predicated on verifying the identity of a human being or a legally registered corporation.
Right, someone you can actually put in jail.
Exactly. When you have an autonomous script legally holding, moving, and spending USDC across borders in milliseconds, the legacy financial system is going to just short circuit. How do you subpoena a script? How do you arrest an algorithm for money laundering?
The friction between this futuristic tech and legacy bureaucracy is going to be brutal. And we are already seeing that exact friction playing out today in such a hilarious way.
Oh, I know what you're going to bring up.
On one hand, physical autonomy is literally on the streets. At Sawyermere posted footage today of an 80-vehicle fleet of Tesla cybercabs. No drivers, no steering wheels, just rows of them actively testing in Houston right now.
A literal fleet of robotaxis navigating a major American city.
Yes. But then, contrast that futuristic reality with a post from @Steepied. He's a highly successful AI founder with over 550,000 followers. He posted today that he was just rejected by AT&T 4 times for a basic cell phone plan simply because he lacks a U.S. credit history.
It is so funny, but so painful.
He had to crowdsource alternatives on his timeline, with everyone telling him to go use U.S. Mobile or Google Fi just to bypass the corporate bureaucracy.
It is the most frustrating irony of our current moment. I mean, we have fleets of driverless cars navigating traffic, and we are actively building global on-chain financial settlement networks for autonomous software.
Yeah.
Yet a highly successful human engineer cannot buy a SIM card because a legacy telecoms risk model from 1998 says he doesn't exist on a credit bureau's spreadsheet.
The friction of the real world is undefeated.
The real world always imposes attacks on cyberspace. The tech moves at the speed of light, but society moves at the speed of credit checks and zoning laws.
Speaking of cyberspace, let's talk about the nostalgia illusion, because it ties perfectly into this idea of what tech can and can't solve. There was a huge conversation sparked by at TradeQ212 today regarding Riot Games.
Right, the League of Legends thing.
Yeah, they are reviving League of Legends Classic, bringing back the original map, the old items, the legacy code base. And at TradeQ212 speculated that the only reason this is economically viable for Riot right now is because AI coding agents have completely changed the math on porting legacy code bases.
I love bursting this particular bubble. It's so tempting to look at every new development and say, AI did that. AI is magic, so it must be AI.
I mean, we just talked about AI having crypto wallets. It doesn't seem that far-fetched.
It's not far-fetched, but it's factually wrong in this case. If you dive into the context, it had absolutely nothing to do with AI. Riot simply acquired the source code from a fan-made preservation project called ChronoShift.
Oh, they just bought the code from the fans.
Exactly. They bought existing code from a dedicated fan community that spent years reverse engineering it. It's a crucial reminder not to attribute everything to the latest type cycle. Sometimes the most efficient path to market isn't a complex AI agent rewriting millions of lines of C++ part.
It's just cutting a check to humans.
Right. Humans who already did the hard work out of pure passion.
That is such a vital reality check. And it brings up a really deep point about what actually matters when the technology gets this ubiquitous. If AI is commoditizing high-level coding and agents are trading crypto, what is left for us? At the Danko posted a brilliant list today of the skills that are worth an immense amount of practice right now, and none of them have to do with writing code or managing spreadsheets.
What stood out on that list to you?
Well, he listed things like charisma, metacognition, critical thinking, and the ability to sit with discomfort. And metacognition is a word we throw around a lot, but in this context, it literally means thinking about how you think.
Yeah.
It's the ability to step back and observe your own learning process, identify your biases, and adapt your mental models when the environment changes.
That is the ultimate frontier stack. Because when the hard technical skills become commoditized, when a 1 million token open source model can do the heavy lifting of data analysis, programming, and compliance, the premium shifts entirely to human judgment, emotional regulation, and adaptability.
Completely.
If you can't manage your own psychology in a rapidly changing environment, no amount of coding skills will save you.
It pairs beautifully with a recommendation today from @Ben Elson. He pointed his audience toward the Stanford CS153 AI series on YouTube. It features lectures from Jensen Huang, Satya Nadella, Sam Altman. But the point he was making isn't just to go learn the code.
Right, it's to understand the systems.
Exactly. You need to understand the constraints on energy, the physics of silicon, the scaling laws. Because if you understand the systems, you can apply critical thinking to figure out where the world is actually going.
Because knowledge is only valuable when you understand its mechanics. If you don't have the metacognition to understand why the inference market is scaling, or why enterprises are demanding open weights to stop API token drains, you're just going to be swept away by the hype.
You'll be the person blaming AI for a video game port that was actually done by humans.
Exactly.
So, what does this all mean for you listening right now? We started this deep dive looking at a diagnostic landscape of an industry in massive transition. A world where AI inference is becoming a geopolitical bottleneck, where open-source models are making high-level coding a local commodity, and where closed-source APIs can drain your budget overnight.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have. But here is something else to chew on that we haven't even touched yet. We talked about AI agents getting their own crypto wallets, and we talked about the intense physical friction humans face, like an AI founder getting rejected for a SIM card because of a credit check. What happens when those two realities collide? What happens when an AI agent, holding its own USDC, realizes it can't overcome physical world bureaucracy, so it uses its crypto wallet to hire a human gig worker to go buy a burner phone and set up an account on its behalf?
Wow, that is a staggering thought.
The moment software starts paying humans to bypass physical friction, the entire relationship between capital and labor flips upside down. In that world, the non-monetary skills Dan Coe mentioned, your critical thinking, your adaptability, and your ability to update your beliefs, might just be the only truly proprietary closed-source assets you have left. Protect them and practice them.
And if we want to apply that critical thinking right now, here's a prediction for you based on the sheer velocity of today's timeline. Within the next 24 hours, expect a major enterprise software giant, someone the size of SAP or Oracle, to announce a strategic pivot away from API-based LLMs toward hosting their own open-source models.
Really? That soon?
Yes, they will do it specifically to stop the bleeding of these unexplainable token drains. The unit economics simply demand it.
The ground is moving, and we will be right here to map it for you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the wire. We'll see you tomorrow.
Stay sharp out there.